Philadelphia wants to talk about this. After 78 votes, should the Eagles trade for Jonathan Taylor? Right now, leading the way is 57.7% with no, 42.3% is yes. Phil, let's open up the topic conversation today with our birds as they gear up with preseason action tonight against the Indianapolis Colts. So, JT, Jonathan Taylor, is a member of the Colts, ironically. A lot of rumors, and this is always happens every offseason. The big star players on the trade block or gets released, and everyone's like, yo, Howie, go out and get him. So, your opinion, should Howie actually go out? And we had reports today that it looks like there have been talks. Should this happen, man?
I mean, should it happen? No. I mean, it's not necessary. It's overkill. You know what I mean? You don't need it to happen. But I mean, I see everybody, I see your poll saying no, and everybody's saying no, it's overkill, not necessary. But you know what? Wouldn't it be? I mean, if you could convince him to play here on his last year of his deal, if you can get him cheap enough. I mean, you see what did Isaiah Simmons go? A really good player. He went for a 7th-round pick. If you can get Jonathan Taylor in here for a 5th-round pick or a player swap of some kind, I mean, who would say? Why would you say no if you could convince him? You're just going to outscore everybody even more. I mean, I get it. It's not necessary. It's a dumb question, like you said, to an extent. But I mean, I would never say no to any player at the right price. You know what I mean? So why not? You know what I mean? Scotty said I'd rather a safety or a linebacker. Sure, we'd all rather that. But sure, if Howie's going to make a move, why not? I would never say no. I just don't think it's necessary.
I mean, so my thing is like who we're negotiating with here. So it's the Colts. Ursay's kind of a stickler, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious what the pricing would be for it. I'm in the ballpark where I don't like to give up a lot for running backs. For like a 3rd-day pick, of course I would throw that in there. Yeah, but I just don't know. Like we're talking about like a top tier. Where would you rank Jonathan Taylor in the league right now?
Oh, he's one of the top 5 running backs in football for sure. So I mean, last year he was the number 1 running back taken in almost every single fantasy football draft. You know what I mean? I know fantasy is different than real life,
right?
But the thing is, like, it's different. Everybody's comparing it to the Christian McCaffrey trade from last year with San Francisco and Carolina. There's a difference there because Jim Irsay, first off, he's a nut job, and he's gone out and already ruined his trade value. He wants a 1st-round pick or a 2nd-round pick and a really good player. Problem is, no one's going to give that because everybody already knows that Jonathan Taylor wants out. Jim Irsay already said he's not going to pay him. He's on the last year of his deal. So the value's a little different there, in my opinion. So I don't think you're going to be able to find a way to get more than a 3rd-round pick if a team like the Bears, who's linked to him, Dolphins are linked to him, all those teams that are linked to him, it's going to be hard for the Colts to get much more than a 3rd-round pick at this point.
Here's the one thing that I will say. One thing I'm like I love this running back room. I talked about it before. Mm-hmm. This is the deepest running back room we've had in a long time.
Absolutely.
But of course, like you look at the top 2, Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift. Both guys have had injury history. That's why like I'm a little reluctant to like, okay, well, Howie, what are you up to here? Because I think you see kind of what we see here. So that's where I'm like a little bit like, okay, we'll let's see what they're actually interested in, man. Gainwell. I mean, I don't know if I would give up.
I mean, personally, I'm not a Gainwell guy. Like, I think Gainwell's a good player. Everything reports out there saying that he's the lead back, even ahead of DeAndre Swift. I don't buy it. He hasn't shown any. Like, he's a good running back, but I don't think he's a lead guy. DeAndre Swift, injury prone. Rashad Penny might not make this team. Boston Scott's good, barely, twice a year. Our running back room is really good, but I said it since day one. You lost Miles Sanders last year, who rushed for almost 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. You're not going to – everyone's like, oh, we got a running back by committee type team. Nah. Miles Sanders literally carried that running back room last year, and you got to replace it. And I don't know if these guys can fully replace that. Maybe as a team, maybe as a combo, but no one person's replacing what Miles Sanders did last year. Jonathan Taylor could do that.
I also do think that like part of Jalen running the ball helped what happened in the running game as well. And absolutely. I don't know about you personally, but like I would like for him to take less carries.
Absolutely.
We know the threat he is with at the legs, but that's why I would like to see more of. I agree. Like last year, it really wasn't that much running back coming because Jalen was so prominent in that. But it would be nice to see that as well. Max 4th rounder for JT, but Simmons went 7th and D-Hop was cut. Honestly, 4th rounder might be the right price. And
I think if you called and offered a 4th rounder, I think Irsay would have no choice. But that's why the trade hasn't happened yet, because he wants a 2nd or 3rd, or no one's offering it because he's lost all leverage in this situation.
And organization. I think Swift is better than Miles.
He
Dude,
could be
for sure, but health is where I get pushed
Mhm.
back a little bit when it comes to
Mhm.
that. But it's game day. I'm sure
Yeah.
that phone is for all those pizzas for game day today.
This is the slow part of the day between 2 and 4 o'clock, so you won't hear too many phone calls back there.
Okay. So I want to start off with tonight's
Mhm.
preseason game. A lot of talk after last preseason game about Mariota and the backup quarterback
Mhm.
position. I think I heard he's going to get like max 2 series here
Yeah.
today. Your opinion personally, like, is Mariota's play a concern for you as the backup this season?
I'm not too concerned about Marcus Mariota. First off, he's playing with twos. If he gets out there with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and our offensive line, he's obviously going to look a lot better out there. But everybody's talking about Tanner McKee and all this other stuff. Marcus Mariota signed to a pretty big contract that's fully guaranteed. Unless somebody, offers a trade, there's no way Marcus Mariota is not going to be the number 2 guy. And all these people that love Tanner McGee, you're a Super Bowl contending team. You're the defending NFC champions. If Jalen Hurts goes down for more than a game or so, are you really going to turn the keys of a Super Bowl contending team over to a rookie 6th-round pick? Or a guy Marcus Mariota that started 70 games in his career. He's got a near 90 quarterback rating in his career. People forget that. He's not a great passer, but overall, his numbers are not that bad as a starter in the NFL.
I'm with you, man. That's literally my thought about it. Like, Phil, at the end of the day, in this league, if you have to rely on your backup quarterback, like situations like 2017 and Nick Foles, like that rarely happens, right?
Absolutely.
So if your quarterback goes down, you're more than likely you're screwed. I'd rather have the guy who's got experience, but there is a positive in this because I do think Tanner proved us something. You need to keep him on this team, practice squad, whatever. Have that third and active quarterback. Next year, have him compete for the backup quarterback position. It would be nice to not spend a lot of money on the backup quarterback position.
I will say one thing, because I've been very firm on the Marcus Mariota is the quarterback too. And a couple of days ago on my show, one of the commenters said something that really kind of resonated with me. And what's the point of preseason games and training camp? For young guys and rookies to prove who they are and earn spots on a team. Tanner McKee has kind of, if you take the money out of the equation, if Marcus Mariota was making the exact same amount of money as Tanner McKee has earned that right to be the quarterback too. Yep. Problem, you got to take into account the money. You're not going to take a $5 or $6 million cap hit because you're cutting your backup quarterback. You're just not going to do it. But that does make a little sense to me. Like, he has earned it. He has put the work in. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe he balls out tonight and maybe pushes Howie's, arm a little bit here and forces his hand a little bit,
Be interesting, dude. That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting.
Make sure you keep an eye out for our boy Scotty. He's gonna be in 128. If you see him, give him a good old go Birds.
Who's going to a preseason game? Come on. It's Buckashuck Oyster Night down the street. I'm going to Buckashuck Oyster Night for it instead.
That's what I like to hear, man. What front office is worse, the Sixers or the Colts, man? We'll definitely talk about the Sixers in a little bit, man. But I mean, both front offices are. Which shit show is worse? I guess I'm gonna go with the Sixers and that one. Man.
We're living the Sixers one front and center right now.
Oh, dude, literally. If Marriotta's in and we don't have a great shot, regardless, LOL. McKee ain't saving us either. Yeah, I mean that's. Yeah, but I mean, if you ask, some fans, they put a lot of stock in a preseason, which, I typically don't, man. Yeah. What else are you looking forward to tonight?
The safety battle is very intriguing. Same. The linebacker battle is very intriguing. I think there's a lot of battles on the defense that are intriguing. But the realistic things that I'm looking at running back because Jonathan Taylor's probably not happening. I want to see who's going to be the 3rd or 4th running back. And I want to see who's going to be the 5th wide receiver. Because I don't think Britton Covey, who was obviously here all last year and the punt returner, I do not think he's a lock to make this team. And my buddy Ed Kratz from Sports Illustrated, he messaged me the other day when I was asking him some questions. And he's like, if you're in the tub, you can't make the club. And, I mean, when was the last time Britton Covey stepped on a field in pads? It's been 3-4 weeks. You got a lot of guys fighting for that last wide receiver spot. And I think someone tonight could supplant Britton Covey as the number 5 wide receiver on this team.
Shouldn't be hard, but I agree with you, man. You can't roll out with Covey again this year. Yeah. The safety one is intriguing to me. Like Blankenship, the fact that Blankenship locked up a starting spot from what it seemed like is It is interesting, but Sidney Brown intrigues the crap out of me.
Absolutely.
His instincts on the field, like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like, as an Eagles fan, especially growing up in the Dawkins days, like, that definitely
Mm-hmm.
does something to me. But I'm just curious how, like we're going from last year's safety group to this year's safety group. Like, I don't think that gets talked about a lot, and I'm just curious, like,
Mm-hmm.
how those guys would look. Now, the beginning part of the season, it's not that hard, right? But
Mm-hmm.
once you get into the thick of things in the schedule, I'm curious to see how those guys do roll on. But
I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It was like this time last year. We're like right before Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got brought in. We're looking at Jesse Bates. We're looking at all these things because remember, a year ago we had Marcus Epps and who as starting. You know, before we got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, we were in some deep trouble. Now Reed Blankenship, he's not just a lock. I mean, he is the man there, and it's crazy how safety has flipped like that.
yeah, I think it's going to be Sidney Brown, Scotty, and Reed, and I think the linebackers. Dude, Zach has really stepped up, man,
Yep.
and kudos to him. I think it'll be Zach, and I think it will be N'Kobe once he's fully healthy.
I kind of think Terrell Edmonds is. I thought he was going to be cut a little while ago, but I think Terrell Edmonds is the starter, and Sidney Brown is kind of eased in at first. And he, you know, Sidney Brown's great. Everything you said about him, spot on. But he doesn't know how to throttle down at all.
Right.
He's 100 miles an hour every single play, which means early on he could be exposed. So if you limit his exposure a little bit and let him get used to, because the speed of the game as soon as week one comes is going to change a little bit. It's going to get a little faster. So he needs to learn how to throttle down on certain plays. So I think that's what you're going to see a little bit. You're going to see him eased in 10 snaps the first week, 15 snaps. By week 5, 6, yeah, he might be starting. But right away, it's going to be a little bit of a, grace period for him there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, and I agree with Scotty as well.
Scotty's
man.
Right. Scotty's spot on. They're actually going to only keep probably 4 linebackers.
Right.
On the depth chart, Nolan Smith and Hassan Reddick are technically linebackers, so technically they'd be keeping 6, but they kept 8 last year. So all these other roster spots that you want to open up, they're only going to keep real true 4. These 3 that Scotty's mentioned, and it's a battle between Nicholas Morrow and what's his name, Ben Van Summeren or whatever his name is. Those 2 guys are battling for that last spot tonight.
That's good. Those are the things that are intriguing about preseason. I like Edmonds' versatility. That's something that's extremely important, especially in today's NFL, man. But that's gonna be some fun. I want to see some more. I'm curious to see how much of like N'Kobe. I'm not N'Kobe. I'm sorry, Jalen Carter and Milton Williams. We'll see. I've been loving Milton Williams' development, man. Speaking of versatility,
I love that guy.
Doesn't get talked about a lot, but it's a lot of freaking fun. Yeah, what'd you think of the Devontae Smith sleep deprivation, man? He's getting like 4 hours of sleep.
Dude, I can't survive on 8. How would I survive on 4, dude? Like that man's a machine. I guess when you're smaller like that, you don't need as much sleep. I don't know what it is, man.
What about 8, man? Does that, you think that has anything to do? Like, 'cause I mean, I couldn't do 4. I mean, I could. No. I was not very useful when I was at that age. 4 hours.
There's no way I'm surviving on 4 hours of sleep. None. I'm only actually surviving on like 4 or 5 today, and I'm dragging, man. It's going to be a long night getting through this, getting through a final preseason game, oyster night, and on 4 or 5 hours sleep. It ain't going to be pretty tonight.
It's listen, man. Well, I guess it's crazy. Now you're gonna get a bunch of kids, telling their parents, I only need 4. I only need 4. Probably only get 4 now with all the video games they're playing these days.